Have you ever heard of Leviathan, the most terrifying creature mentioned in the Bible? Imagine a being so powerful that even the ancients feared just hearing its name. But what exactly is Leviathan? Is it just a myth? Or is there more behind this enigmatic figure? Stay with me because today we're diving deep into this legend to uncover the secrets hidden in the sacred pages. You won't want to miss this. Let's go. To better understand Leviathan, we need to travel back in time and consider the historical and cultural context in which it was mentioned. The Old Testament of the Bible was written during a time when many cultures in the Middle East and the Mediterranean believed in sea monsters and dragons. These mythological beings were often seen as personifications of chaos and the untamable forces of nature. In Mesopotamian mythology, for instance, we find Tiamat, a sea goddess represented as a dragon symbolizing primordial chaos. Ancient peoples lived at the mercy of natural forces, and without the scientific knowledge we have today, these forces were often interpreted as supernatural entities. Therefore, the idea of creatures like Leviathan was not just a literary invention but a reflection of the real beliefs and fears of that time. Furthermore, Leviathan appears in biblical texts during a period when the people of Israel were frequently in conflict with neighboring nations and facing both internal and external challenges. The metaphor of a powerful, indomitable monster served to illustrate the chaotic threats they felt around them, whether political, military, or natural. In the book of Job, for example, Leviathan is described in detail, emphasizing its invincibility and strength, characteristics that only God could confront. This description serves not only to showcase Leviathan's power, but also to highlight God's supremacy over all things. In summary, the historical and cultural context of Leviathan helps us understand how this figure fit into the ancient worldview, reflecting both their religious beliefs and their everyday challenges. Leviathan is mentioned in various biblical passages, being described in different ways that contribute to the understanding of this enigmatic figure. In the book of Job, chapter 41, we find one of the most detailed descriptions. God speaks to Job about Leviathan, highlighting its strength and ferocity. The creature is described as a colossal being with impenetrable scales, terrifying teeth, and a body that cannot be defeated by swords, spears, or any human weapon. This depiction aims to show the magnitude of God's power, as he is the only one capable of dominating such an imposing creature. In this context, Leviathan illustrates human impotence in the face of nature's forces and divine power, emphasizing that only God has absolute control over the universe. Another significant passage is in Psalm 74 verse 14, where Leviathan is mentioned in the context of a cosmic battle. The psalmist speaks of God breaking the heads of Leviathan and giving it as food to the creatures of the desert, symbolizing God's victory over chaos and the forces of evil. In Isaiah 27 verse 1, Leviathan is described as a twisted serpent that God will destroy at the end of times, again associating the creature with chaos and disorder that will be defeated in the consummation of times. These passages not only reiterate God's supreme power over all things, but also use Leviathan as a symbol of the evil and chaotic forces in the world. Therefore, the destruction of Leviathan represents God's final victory over evil and the restoration of divine order. The symbolic and theological interpretations of Leviathan are varied and reflect the richness of biblical traditions and the depth of theological thought over the centuries. One of the most common interpretations is that Leviathan symbolizes primordial chaos, representing the disordered and destructive forces that God subdued to create order in the universe. In this sense, Leviathan is not just a physical creature but a personification of threats to divine order. This view is closely linked to the descriptions of Leviathan in Job and Psalms, where its defeat by God's hands reinforces the idea that divine power is supreme and capable of overcoming any chaotic or evil force. This interpretation also resonates in Christian theology, which sees the destruction of Leviathan as a prefiguration of Christ's final victory over Satan and all forces of evil. Another important interpretation is that Leviathan is seen as a metaphor for Israel's enemies and, by extension, for any oppressive force threatening God's people. In Isaiah 27 verse 1, the destruction of Leviathan symbolizes the defeat of Israel's enemies and the restoration of God's kingdom on earth. Here, Leviathan can be viewed as a representation of nations or powers opposing God and his people, and its destruction is a sign of hope and redemption for the faithful. This perspective not only emphasizes divine protection over Israel, but also reinforces the belief in divine justice, where evil will eventually be defeated. Thus, Leviathan assumes a dual role in symbolic and theological interpretations, as an emblem of chaos and evil that God dominates, and as a symbol of enemies that will be defeated in the fulfillment of divine promises. In summary, Leviathan is a rich and multifaceted figure that has captured human imagination for millennia. Its mention in the Bible serves not only as a description of a colossal creature, but also as a powerful symbol of chaos, evil, and the untamable forces of nature that only God can control. The various biblical passages that mention Leviathan, such as in Job, Psalms, and Isaiah, reinforce the message of divine supremacy and the inevitable defeat of the forces of evil. These descriptions not only showcase God's power over all things, but also offer comfort and hope to the people of Israel and, by extension, to all the faithful, assuring them that despite chaotic threats and powerful enemies, divine justice and order will prevail. Beyond the biblical context, Leviathan has left an indelible mark on popular culture, appearing in literature, cinema, television, and video games. Its figure has been adapted and reinterpreted in numerous ways, always maintaining its essence of indomitable strength and mystery. These modern representations not only keep the legend of Leviathan alive, but also expand it, adapting it to new contexts and formats that continue to fascinate and terrify audiences. Ultimately, Leviathan is more than just a simple monster. It is a powerful symbol that transcends time and cultures, reflecting our deepest fears and our eternal struggle against the forces of chaos and evil.